Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Rouge Rugby Podcast. My name is Dan Murphy. I'm back. Derek, I'm back. I wish I had a car as nice as... Did you guys say I had a Jaguar? Is that...
What? No, a Ferrari. Dan,
Ferrari.
A Ferrari, Dan. Wait, is that your go-to dream car? Is that a Ferrari? Is a Jaguar? Is that...
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing is my mom had a rich cousin when I was young. Well, I don't know. I think he's still alive. But when I was younger, he had a really nice...
Real close cousin, eh?
Yeah. He had a really nice Jaguar, and he took me and my brothers for a ride in it. And he went from like 30 to 120 kilometers in 3 seconds. And it must be something ingrained in my back of my mind that
that Jaguar
that is
sentimentals Jaguar.
Yeah, so
I like it.
No, I did not.
What's the dream car then, Dan? Is it a Jaguar? What's the dream car? Unlimited funds.
Unlimited funds.
Cat's next birthday present.
Like a Ford Mustang Shelby Cobra, but an old one.
Like a classic one though?
Yeah.
Okay.
Really blue.
I think that's
white racing stripes. That's.
I think that would be my dad's answer too.
Or a really nice souped up Jeep. I know that's kind of a cheap option, but I've always wanted a Jeep.
I feel like you need that Inception gif of when Tom Hardy tells Joseph Gordon-Levitt he can dream a little bit bigger and pulls out a fictional gun. Yeah, just to be it's what's your dream car? Be the Batmobile. That's what I want.
Okay, all right, that's fair. But which Batmobile? We're talking Michael Keaton's Batmobile, the Tumbler, the classic Batman the Animated Series one that had
I want
huge front.
The Ben Affleck one that murders people. No, not that one. I would go. Ooh. You know what? I feel like the one I remember seeing screenshots, the new Robert Pattinson Batman one, and where it's a muscle car. That one looks cool. Yeah. I think I'd have to go with the Michael Keaton Batman though. Seems like I don't need to run people over. I just need to drive the car.
Yeah, you just blow.
I'm not actually Batman, but
yeah, you just blow up chemical buildings. It's great.
I also Batman and James Bond's Aston Martin DB5. Those would be.
That's a good choice.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't come here to talk about nerdy stuff, although that tends to happen when it's just you and I.
Is that not tradition on our podcast now?
It is. You and I, we do love our nerdy stuff.
Nonsense. That's probably why I look at the analytics and so many people dip off after the first minute, though.
We've got some exciting rugby to talk about. The regular MLR regular season's all done, wrapped up. It's finished, tied up in a nice, tidy bow. Playoffs this weekend, semifinals, and we also have the Olympics starting on Sunday. And we have lots to talk about that. So, Derek, let's get started with the Olympics then. Let's dive right into it. Some really exciting news this week, announced by Team Canada, the Olympic Committee, and also the Prime Minister. Which
the Prime Minister is making a lot of rugby content.
Yeah, right? It's great. I'm here for it.
Justin's I need all the rugby fans to vote for me. Because people,
yeah, with his upcoming election that he's going to have to deal with.
Yeah, exactly.
He
securing
announced
that small rugby vote.
It is a very small vote, Justin. Don't pull your eggs in that one basket.
Do it. World Cup.
Or do it.
Well, Justin Trudeau puts World Cup for his platform before the states get one. We'll be I'm going to get a World Cup first, guys. Then yeah. God.
They announced that there will be 2 flag bearers for the opening ceremonies. Miranda Am, 3rd straight Olympic appearance with the women's basketball program with Canada, and also, of course, Nathan Hirayama, co-captain of the men's sevens program. I mean, what else can you say about Hirayama? I mean, the guy's a sevens legend. I believe he's 3rd all-time in points.
3rd all-time in points, yep.
1st overall for Canada. He's been to 15s World Cups. I think he was there 2011 and also definitely was there 2015. The guy has just been a steady force for Canada for so many years. And the day he retires, Rugby Canada is going to have some huge problems. Same thing if Ghislaine Landry, once she retires, that's going to be a
Ghislaine Landry's first all time in women's points.
Yeah.
So there's some unreal Canadian talent. Yeah, for Hirayama, I mean, the resume speaks for itself. I just think like this is probably like is this the coolest thing that's ever happened to Rugby Canada? At least in the past like 20 years, you get to
I mean, the
you have a
bronze medal was pretty sweet.
bronze medal is pretty sweet. Bronze medal was pretty sweet, but it's like I feel like the flag bearer is like a next level like honor though, right?
Oh
Like
yeah.
in order to like you know what I mean? Like you go to this. Like I don't know. I feel like is the flag bearer not slightly cooler than a gold medal? Do you think? What's
No.
no, you don't think it's because I'm thinking it's like how many athletes are going to get to win a gold medal, but how many athletes actually get to carry?
You know what? I think it depends. I think it depends if it's a team event where like you're there to win only one gold.
Yeah,
It
then maybe
definitely
not.
is.
Then
It
maybe yeah.
definitely is. Yeah, more cooler.
Either way. I mean, obviously, this is. I mean, go win a gold medal too, Nate. And then we can ask you
Yeah.
which one you thought was cooler.
Which one do you prefer more, Nate?
Which one do you? Yeah, which one was cooler? Carrying the flag in front of the rest of the country, representing the team in that way. Yeah, I thought that was awesome. So I did kind of dig into this though because I was curious. So Dan, I'm gonna little fun trivia question for you.
Yes.
Nathan Hirayama is the second Canadian rugby player to be a flag bearer at the Olympics. The catch, of course, is that this individual was not actually playing rugby at the Olympics, though. Do you know who it is?
No, shoot. I feel
She's
like
very good at rugby and another sport.
is it a bobsledder?
It is a bobsledder, yeah.
Is it the Humphreys?
No,
Keelan Humphreys?
no. Come on, man. Come on. You have a Canadian rugby podcast, man. You got to get this.
No, my mind is blanking.
It's Heather Moyse, man. Heather Moyse. She's in the World Rugby Hall of Fame for being excellent at rugby in Canada. Man, got to know that then.
Put it on my to-do list. Try to remember. Yeah, listen, I'm really excited about this, and I think you're right. I think like this is huge. To see someone like Devin Haru, who's a CBC reporter, and he covers. Yeah. He's been covering all the Olympic coverage, but he's also huge into curling. Like he's huge. He covers all of CBC's curling coverage. He goes to Briars and Scotty's. And I see him talking about rugby sevens and Nate Hirayama. It's just like this kind of surreal moment for me. It's like a meeting of like two worlds combined. So,
well, that's kind of the thing with the Olympics, though, right? Is like especially for CBC, whose Olympic coverage is amazing. Mm-hmm. Like it's legitimately like absolutely unreal when they cover the Olympics. It's the best. If you're not from Canada, VPN and just watch some CBC Olympic coverage is mind blowing. But it's like that's part of what it is though, right? Is like reporters that don't normally cover sports have to cover sports that they don't normally do, right? And like you said, it's like that was one of the things that we were talking about before. It's like, okay, does playing at the Olympics, does that help raise the profile of rugby in Canada and in the United States as well? And it's like, well, sometimes it comes down to it's like, is this going to be a sport that for other people, like the way I treat like judo, where it's like, okay, a Canadian's doing judo, he's doing well, then yeah, I'll watch judo and hope that the Canadian wins a medal. And then, in 4 years, I'll watch judo again. Or is it going to be like, can you get people to be like, watch rugby and be super interested in it after? And I think one of those things though, that I certainly did not expect to happen. It's like, if you want to raise the profile of rugby, the flag bearer for Canada is a rugby player now.
Yeah.
Like when they walk into the stadium, CBC's like panning on the Canadian national team. And it's like, they got to introduce the flag bearer. They're introducing a rugby player and they're going to, on the big CBC opening ceremonies broadcast and all that, they're going to have to talk about Nathan Hirayama and the rugby sevens team. Right. And then maybe mix in a little chat about the women's team and stuff too. Hopefully something like that might happen.
Yeah.
But it's like, you have to do that. And I think it's really cool to like with that, it's just, again, like the profile, right? Like this is going to be like, in Canada, it'll be on CBC, but it's like Nathan Hirayama, I was looking through it. Not every country has announced a flag bearer, mind you, but there's 3 other countries that have rugby players as flag bearers.
Kenya has one, right?
Kenya has one, Andrew Amonde. And then can you guess the other two? It should be pretty easy to guess the other two countries.
Fiji and New Zealand.
Yeah. Yeah, there you go. You redeemed yourself from the Heather.
Yeah, I did it.
Yeah,
Woo!
exactly. Yeah, so Kenya has Andrew Amonde. New Zealand has Sarah Harini, and then Fiji has Rusila Nagasau and Jerry Tuawai. So Fiji loves the rugby, so they went with 2 rugby players for their flag bearers, which is probably, I mean, I wouldn't expect anything less from Fiji, to be honest.
Yeah,
they're probably they might be one of the most rugby mad places in the world, and it's delightful. So yeah, the handful, and obviously I was kind of looking at it. There's a handful of other big rugby countries too that just haven't announced flag bearers. So maybe it ends up being more by when of this.
Maybe Great Britain or Ireland. I mean, I can't imagine how many Ireland athletes are out there. So
I remember I looked at the list because I was specifically looking for rugby sevens players, but I don't remember which countries haven't announced it.
Right.
There's a whole bunch of sports represented. I think there was I remember seeing athletics and judo, I think were the ones that I kept seeing the most, which I guess makes sense because athletics is such a broad scope of the word at the Olympics.
Right.
But ultimately, it's just, and then sorry to follow that up, Ose Kalinasau was a flag bearer for Fiji in Rio as well.
Right.
So
opening ceremonies or closing?
Opening, I think opening. They probably had the entire team do it for the closing ceremonies, or I can't remember. Maybe the team just missed it celebrating. I don't know. Yeah. So yeah, we'll talk about some Fiji at the Olympics in a bit here, but yeah, ultimately, I think it's on all honesty, I think it's just absolutely when I saw Nate Hirayama is going to be the flag bearer, that is the most excited I think I've been about Rugby Canada news in a long time. Just because of how big of a deal it is. You look go through the list of athletes that he's now associated with by being a flag bearer. It's a pretty outstanding, phenomenal list, and that includes Heather Moyse. And it's it's there probably isn't too much of bigger honors that you can get in your athletic career of any kind. So it'll be cool. We'll see what happens throughout the rest of the Olympics. See if if the the women's team can win a gold medal. Maybe they have a women's player do it on the way back, like Landry or something on the for the closing ceremonies. That would be cool. Who knows how it'll turn out though? There's always I feel like at the Olympics, the closing ceremonies, there's always that one crazy unexpected story, and then there'll be you're the flag bearer now.
Yeah.
For a lot of the closing Olympics and stuff. So it's super cool. Also, obviously, congrats to Miranda Aim as well. Just again for the exact same thing, for being a flag bearer. It's one of the biggest honors you could probably receive as an athlete.
And you know what? They have high hopes with that women's team. So
do they?
I know.
I don't follow basketball as much though. As are they have?
Yeah, you think about men's basketball, and really, there's only a few teams. I
was to say, do we not stink at men's basketball? Is Canada not terrible?
No, we didn't. We lost in the qualifier tournament. So we should have won. This was don't even get me started. This was the best Canadian basketball team, and we were missing people. We didn't have Jamal Murray because he was injured, and there's a few other guys that didn't go. And it was held in Victoria. We had won our first 2 games, and we just needed to win one more, and we lost and we got eliminated.
Who did we lose to?
I don't
remember.
Don't even remember. That's how insignificant the country was. And this was their best shot. And then the good thing about Canadian basketball is that all of our stars are young. You think about RJ Barrett, Jamal Murray, Andrew Wiggins is still relatively youngish. We have more guys that are coming out of the NCAA system.
Yeah, I think Canada basketball is getting better. I think it's.
I mean, the we're starting to see the fruits, and this is why we talk about the impact of the Arrows. We are now starting to see the fruits of the labors of the Blue Jays winning the World Series, and the relevance of the Raptors and Vince Carter from the early 2000s. We're now seeing more Canadians come out of, then MLB and the NBA because of how popular our pro teams were.
There's a documentary on Netflix called the Carter Effect. I believe it's called the Carter Effect. Something to that effect, I guess, of the title. And like, yeah, it's like an hour long, and it talks about exactly that. And I think it interviews a bunch of like the Canadian NBA players that are
Yeah.
just like, yeah, I started playing because I watched Vince
And watch, in 20 years, 19, 20 years, we are going to have a boom of basketball stars
Carter. Yeah,
from Canada because of Kawhi Leonard and the Raptors win the
you probably,
championship.
and I
Book it.
I would agree with that. And then apparently, oh yeah, no, for sure. And then like you even like that's what you would hope for rugby too, right? Is like, maybe the men's and women's team, they have a strong showing at the Olympics, and that
Yeah.
helps drive up the interest.
Well, that's
Um,
what some of the
and
girls in that documentary that we mentioned a few episodes ago about the women's program,
yeah,
they said in their
yeah, it was
interviews that they
Liv Apps mentioned that it was like, oh,
yeah,
seeing them win a medal, she's like, okay, I want to go do this now. Yeah. um and but I think that's kind of the thing, and I think that's the whole thing too with like, like hopefully kids from like Atlanta or LA or Utah or New York or whatever, it's like they hopefully, watch their team win a championship in a couple weeks and are like, yeah, man, I want to be, I want to be like Mikey Te'o, or I want to be like Matt Heaton or so on, right? And start picking up ball and stuff. And I think
yeah, for
I think
sure.
I think that's kind of the thing too, and it's, just having the league here. And the one weird thing too, I think like that grows it and stuff, and like there's going to be so many benefits and stuff from the league. And I think like, if there's the success there and the platform, like you said, right, it's like, Nate Hirayama is the flag bearer, right? So that's immediate like increased platform, because you like at some point during this week, it's like they're talking about rugby sevens no matter what. So
Yeah.
like they have no choice.
We're gonna force them to
Yeah,
talk about it.
exactly. Or it's happening, right? So
Yeah.
it's like no matter how well Canada does, the Olympic major CBC Olympic coverage is talking about rugby sevens for at least a couple minutes on one broadcast. But I think, like that's the whole point though, right? Is it's like it does raise that platform, and and like you said too, it's like I think there's a whole other scope of reasons why, like I would
Mhm.
agree with that. Like it takes, like I think even like the NHL, like you even kind of see it, right? Like there's that interview where Austin Matthews says that he wouldn't have played hockey if it wasn't for the Coyotes, right? And
Yeah.
like it is, and it's like you kind of look at. I think it's one of those things too. Like if you look at Team USA from the 1980 Olympics, I think there's like 4 states represented on that team. Whereas if you look at like the team from the most recent Olympics or the most recent World Championships, there's like usually now like 11 to like 14 or something,
Yeah.
right? Obviously, multiple
California's
guys.
got a
Yeah,
great
California's starting
program
to
right
get a
now.
couple players. There's some guy like think like Seth Jones is from Texas, I think. Right. So it's like you start to get those guys. Part of that too, though, is also because players are
Are having kids. Yeah.
in these countries and stuff. Right. We already saw that Rob Shaw had a kid in California. Right. So it's like, I don't know. That's the other benefit. It's like, hey, you know what? This goes well too. Hopefully you get that new generation of kids that's, playing just because they're interested
Yeah.
in it.
It-
But then who knows? Like maybe in years, in 20 years or whatever, you're looking at like the 2044 World Cup or however that math works out. And we're gonna be like, all right, so here's USA and Canada. And there's a bunch of kids named Foden and Rob Shaw running around on like, or right. And
we got a Tucalet or a
yeah.
Montero on Canada. Yeah.
It's
And you
like,
know what?
but it's
Hockey's
true,
an
'cause
interesting
honestly, if
example.
you don't believe me, look at Team USA's roster and pull out the guys like stats. Look at their World Junior roster and look at the guys
Look
like
at the Blue Jays. We've got
you guys too.
what, three
Yeah,
of our best players are all sons of former MLB players. Hockey's an interesting example because, and I forget who wrote the article. They wrote about the future of hockey in for the Athletic, and they talked about the cost of hockey is
yeah.
so expensive now, and
Why?
especially
Which is why.
not just hockey, like
Yeah,
high level. I want to get my kids talents enough to get to the NHL, and the people are can afford it and have the
mhm,
patience to see their kid develop is going to be former athletes and
yeah.
former NHL players, right? So we're going
Which
to see
makes
more
sense.
of those types of guys.
Oh, for sure, it makes sense. I feel like we're getting on a huge tangent.
Yeah,
So should
let's
we?
reel things back to the
Nathan Hirayama,
Olympics.
flag bear, coolest thing that's ever happened.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to something else.
So let's focus with the Olympics still. So the men's game have their first game at 8:30 on Sunday, July the 26th against Great Britain.
Hmm.
So if we look quickly at Canada's pool, they have Fiji, ugh, Great Britain, ugh, and then Japan, which Japan seems to be the most winnable game for them. And it's so funny
You remember where Japan finished in 2016
in the
in the Olympics?
Olympics.
2016 at the Olympics,
I don't know, fifth, sixth.
fourth.
Hmm.
They competed for a bronze medal. So
Yeah, but
Canada's
their
pool,
program since then has gone a certain direction.
yes,
You
yes,
know, like
not a good one. Yes,
yeah,
but so here's the well, Japan's big thing was they upset New Zealand, I think, at that tournament in 2016.
yeah.
Um, but so if you kind of look at it though, Canada's pool, gold medal winner,
Mhm.
silver medal winner, team that
Yeah.
fourth
Yeah.
at the last
So,
Olympics. Lots
and
of
it's funny.
4
It's
years.
funny to look at this pool from a rugby sense and go, "Hey, like I'm mad if Canada only wins one game." Like I think of this from a 15th perspective, and I'm like, "Hey, Canada could win a one game. Awesome! That is a World Cup to celebrate." And that's just the expectations we have for the sevens programs for both the men and the women's. And I think that
It's
one
different.
thing I've seen people talk about is how do we judge Canada going into this tournament? I want to ask you this question, Derek. Is
This-
what the last tournament that Canada played was the Dubai Invitational Sevens brouhaha, and then they had a little bit of a derby against the Pacific Pride, and then before that was the Canada Sevens tournament in 2020. How do we gauge
how do you gauge anybody? That's all.
exactly right? Like, how do you?
Everybody's going into it with like there was a tournament where there was another tournament in like New Zealand or something, I think,
Mhm.
that a bunch of countries went to.
And the U.S. have hosted a couple things,
Yeah,
have a couple
exactly. It's like
tournaments.
they're
So
not all, yeah, just people putting together whatever competitions they can put together to try to get ready, right?
yeah, and if
Um,
you look at Canada's sevens team, like especially for the men, it's got some graybeards in a seven sense.
that's fine. They got
No,
the third
my yeah, and my point is that I think this is advantageous for this Olympics for them having this rest because, and I say this because uh, you see it a lot in a lot of these tournaments that they always seem to be missing like one or two guys because of injury,
yeah,
you know, and it's nice to see that um we've got a lot of older guys with experience that are going to be bringing their veteran leadership into the tournament. We've got Hirayama, we've got co-captain Harry Jones, we've got guys like Conor Trainor, who has been around the block with both the sevens and the 15s programs for what seems like, gosh, forever.
Mhm.
Um, how do you gauge something like this? You got Connor Braid, been there forever. Hirayama, Douglas,
Yeah.
Jones, Trainer, Fulafau, and then you got some of the younger guys in Sauter, Hammond, Thiel, Berna, Mullins, K.
Yeah, I think you're right in the sense that it's like this is probably the best team that they could put out. Um, so I mean, going in fresh might be a good thing, but everybody's going in fresh because that's going to be the equalizer, right? It's like there hasn't been a
Yeah,
lot of sevens anywhere. It's tough. I think it'll be interesting because, like you said, it's like there's just been a lack of play, right? So I think to kind of look at this, if you were to go with like expectations and stuff, sevens I always think is kind of it's like a funny kind of sport, right? Because it's like we've seen like the way like the Olympics is obviously significantly more important than every other tournament, but the format and the structure, it's like it's not that much different, right? It's just you have your pool, play well in your pool, you move on to the knockout stage, and then it's just single game eliminations, right?
yeah,
And when you have a tournament of that format, that is the perfect. That's honestly, it's what makes seven so fun. Is it's the perfect like anything can happen sport, right? Just because there's so much randomness involved in a sport that the ball is shaped funny and you have no idea where it's going to bounce all the time, and and it's just like when you get to that point, especially after the pool stage, when it becomes single elimination games, right? That's just
mhm,
like anything can happen, right? And I think when you kind of look at it, if you look at the men's team has won. The men's team has never won the full World Series. When you look at like the table going all the way across at the end, right? They've never been the team like at the top of the table after a full year of sevens tours, but they have won tournaments, right? And at the end of the day, this is just one tournament,
And
right?
if you look at their last tournament, they were inches,
Yeah, it was close.
millimeters away from making the gold medal game.
Yeah, exactly. And that like
If
that to me,
Theo Sauter just dislocated his shoulder a little bit, he could have gotten
the,
that ball over
the
the
Michael
line.
Jordan Space Jam reach.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, but that's kind of the point though, right? Is it's like you know what I mean? Like in one tournament, which is ultimately what this is, you just got to be the best team on the weekend, in the
Yeah.
middle of the week in this case. But like that's what you have to be, and it's like Canada having one tournaments gives me that little bit of like the hope of it's like okay, you could potentially do this. I think if you're looking at the pool, the easy one is you I shouldn't say you should beat Japan. You need to beat Japan. Beat Japan. Like that's what needs to happen. The way the format works is it's like the top two, it's the top two teams from the top two teams from each group plus like the top two third place teams, I believe it is. Someone might
Okay.
correct me if I'm wrong, right? To set up the yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, the top two teams from every pool, that's six, then the top two third place teams from the three pools. So if you beat Japan, provided Japan loses to Fiji and Great Britain as well, if you beat Japan, you set yourself up to at least be in that third place slot
Yeah.
and
And you
potentially move
keep the
on.
other two games close.
Yeah, exactly. And then you do well. They could beat Great Britain and or Fiji, right? I would be delighted beyond belief if they do it. I wouldn't be shocked, but I would be extremely happy if they did it. Right. But it's like I think if you kind of look at it, Great Britain to me is always interesting at the idea of Great Britain at the Olympics because it's bringing together countries that normally play against each other. But then with the Olympic rules, but they turned that into a silver medal at the last Olympics. So it works. And of course, it's never wise to bet against Dan Norton. He's usually good to burn you for a couple tries a game.
Yeah.
And then you have Fiji, the defending gold medalist. The you know I've always said it's like if you don't call Fiji the best team in the world, they are definitely the most entertaining, and you'll get the most out of watching them.
Yeah, exactly.
They'll always be fun. Semi Randrandra just decided, hey, I want to go win a gold medal, so he's playing. So that's good.
Is he like one of the first like popular triple code guys? Like played league, played 15s, played sevens.
Well, there's that Sunny Bill dude.
Oh shit! Yeah, I forgot that he
Yeah,
played sevens.
yeah, yeah.
Forgot about that.
But yeah, so Semi Randrandra obviously coming in, which is fine because they have they not only have that, they have like Bolaka, who is the leading scorer the last full season of sevens that they played too. Jerry Tuolai, who's he was like the sevens player of the year a couple of years back too. Like there's just they're stacked, they're loaded. Jerry Tuolai is also their flag bearer, just to add to his accolades. But like they Fiji's loaded, and Fiji should be one of the favorites to win this. So, having a pool with Great Britain and Fiji is definitely challenging. They should beat Japan. If you beat Japan, hopefully, at the very least, if you beat Japan, you can hopefully put yourself in position for the cards to fall right and get in with that third spot. Beat Great Britain or Fiji, and you're looking all right. So, I think the Japan game to me is like the biggest must win one. And then like if you could steal one from Great Britain or Fiji, then you're probably laughing
Yeah,
going,
you're sitting pretty.
yeah, exactly. So I mean, it's not, I think they're in decent position. I think there is going to be that little bit of you haven't necessarily seen everybody play in a while, right? So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see there too. And then so we're gonna be able. It'll be interesting. So we're gonna be able to talk about that on the next episode. Go through the whole tournament, and then the women's tournament kicks off after the conclusion of the men's tournament. So they're not running at the same time, but so the
Yes.
women get a
So
couple more days prep, I guess. But
exactly. So they start their first match against Brazil, which is going to be for them probably a easy game.
maybe,
At 8:30 on Wednesday, July 29th. And I think we've talked about the strength of the program, so we don't have to get too much into detail. They are expected to medal, if not win the gold. It is them, New Zealand, Australia, and the US. You
yeah.
can make a case for any four of those teams to win a medal. So, they are going to be a very exciting team to watch. We talked about the documentary that did a really good job kind of talking about their expectations and their disappointment from the last tournament. Um, yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm really excited to see the women play. Who's somebody, and I want you to give me two names. Who are some guys and girls that you are excited to watch from Canada at the Olympics for the sevens?
Oh man, everybody, it's the Olympics. That's I'm excited. I'm excited for like from the men's team. Like I would love to see, especially after being the flag bearer, I'd love to see like Hirayama have like some wicked moment that gets
Hmm.
replayed constantly on all the sport channels and stuff here. I think that like it'd be cool. I mean, as a big Arrows fan, it'd be cool to see guys like Sauter and Co, or like guys that have played in that Ontario program at some point. Um, you know, that make a big difference. There's there's nobody that I wouldn't want to see have a big match. I think everybody, I would be like, I'm down for everybody. Um, I think it'll be cool. I do agree that like I'm kind of going to like the women's team. I'm like, that would be super cool if Landry got like a really big moment. Just because of like the legend that she already is. Just give her like the big Olympic moment. But again, it's like the same. Like who don't you want to have a big moment at the Olympics? It's the Olympics.
Yeah.
So I guess like my answer, like yeah, like Williams, Paquin, Molesky, like anybody, Farella, like I don't know. I'm just gonna like Apps, Alaire, Ben, Busa, Green Shields, pick all of them. Lucan, just all of them. Same with the men, Burnup, Braid, Co, Douglas, Hammond. Like just go through
All right,
the
cheater,
entire
cheater,
roster. I want to
pumpkin
see have a
eater.
big game.
All right, fine. You know what? I'm excited about the first person I want to talk about is Conor Trainor. Um,
Oh,
he is nearing the end of his rugby career, at least with the sevens program. I mean, they tend to go through guys at a quick rate, um, but he is kind of one of those guys that's kind of done it all. You know, he's played overseas in the Pro D2. He has represented Canada with the 15s program. He has represented Canada in the men's sevens program.
mhm.
Played on the circuit, has been to 3 World Cups, has scored 2 tries against the All Blacks. Um,
No big deal.
no big deal. The guy is a legend, and we're going to talk about another legend later. Um, he's also an OUA champion as well. So throw that as another little
No big deal.
no big deal stat. So I'm excited to see what he does. Again,
Anybody
no,
you're looking forward to from like another team or whatever? Or is it just like the same guys? The same guys plus like Rundrendra.
I'm listen. I don't have their jersey up, but I'm really excited to see what Ireland can do.
All right.
They are really, they were really excited about making the Olympics. You know what? They're a team that
They're not usually a big sevens powerhouse, but
no, they're not. But so that makes me even more excited to see what they can try to accomplish. You
nice.
know, um, they've got Harry McNulty was great with the Guiltinis, and then he comes over and did his thing with Ireland. So I'm excited to see what he can do. Honestly, I'm also really excited to see what the U.S. can accomplish.
Yeah,
They are
for sure. Oh, yeah, you
the
go.
men's team, especially. They've gone through a lot of like scary stuff. With Perry Baker getting hurt, and also Carlin Isles getting hurt, and Mike Friday as a coach is just a likable guy. I think we need more coaches like that in the world where they're just good people.
It'd be
So
That could be big momentum too if they want to get that sevens league off the ground and stuff. That's
Exactly.
they signed like a I guess they announced that they signed like a deal with Fox or something to
Yeah.
broadcast that. So I mean that could be a big if the USA does actually do well. As much as I did you I as much as I do I it's one of those things where, like I want to see the USA do well because I think it helps, but I also want to see Canada do better than them. So like realistically, ideal situation, both these tournaments, Canada gold, USA silver, we're good.
Yeah, and it's exciting. There are, there are always going to be people that you kind of latch on because of their social media presence. Um, Alona Mayer from the US is hilarious on TikTok. She's got a great TikTok. She's a great TikTok follow. So she's super fun to watch.
You gonna set up the Rouge Rugby TikTok yet or no?
No, no, I'm
No,
not
why not?
because
That's you're the one that does the social media. That's like your job.
I should have never mentioned it.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, so yeah, we are excited
You should
here
leave
at
it to the
Rouge
people.
Rugby.
Let us know if you want a Rouge Rugby TikTok.
Yeah, no, I even if they want, I will not do it.
All right.
Sorry,
I'll make
folks.
you do it.
There you go. Stu can do it. He's already done a couple TikToks, so
Yeah, there you go.
so yeah, I'm excited. You know, again, being the father of a almost 3-year-old, less excited about the times of the tournament.
I was gonna say, what are we doing for this? So a couple of games, good times, like 8:30. Couple of games,
Yeah,
bad
yeah,
times, like 3:30 a.m. 3:30 a.m. I always feel like it's just like if a game starts around like 12:31, you can do the I'm gonna stay up really late, right? Or if a game starts at like early in the morning, like 4 in the morning, you can kind of do the I'll wake up early. But I feel like
yes.
there's that weird hover
Yeah,
area.
three is a no go. I can make an argument for a 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock game,
Yeah,
or I can make it.
I'll try.
I can make it to like an 11:30
I'm
kickoff
I'll
and watch
be
half an
tired
hour.
at work. I'll be tired at work. It's
Yeah,
um yeah, the medal games, I believe, are both at like around 5 a.m. for both the men's and the women's tournament.
yeah,
Um, I think the women's tournament's 5 a.m. on Saturday though, so at least you get to go back to bed after it,
yeah.
or not because the Lions have a test match. So all day rugby starting at 10 p.m. the night before, I guess.
One underrated kind of story that I'm excited to kind of watch is it's a post Olympics storyline, and it's who is going to stick with the program
We'll
post Olympics.
find out.
You
I
know
mean, we'll be
that is going to be really
the
interesting to
MLR
see.
off season too, so
Exactly. So that'll be really interesting to see what
we'll
happens there.
speculate on all that.
Yeah. Well, you know what? Let's get right into MLR then, because the regular season, the 2021 regular season, is officially over. Um, the final week of games kind of just happened. Um, my Seattle Seawolves ended off on a high,
Hey,
winning 40-21. NOLA won but lost, as you said it in the last
I
episode.
lost. I refuse. Yeah, I
Um,
want to count me and you saying New York as a win. I want to make that argument.
yeah, I'm fine with that. I'll
Yeah,
take that.
no, I think it's a win.
It's a win. They're in the playoffs.
Yeah, they're the team when when you have playoff implications like that, the team that's in the playoffs won that game.
Yeah.
That game was kind of nuts though, because it was like Nola scored super early, and then Dirksen looked like he was about to score to put them up like 14-0 in the
Oh,
first 3 minutes, and then dropped the ball.
oh,
Just like man, wouldn't that have been something if they just shot out to like a 21, like a 14, like
yeah.
they actually got that.
I still don't understand how that what that ball bounced off of, or
Yeah. Oh,
what like
rugby ball, man. It's shaped funny, right?
shaped funny.
Shaped funny.
Old Glory finished their season off on a high, defeating the Gilgronis, which I want to talk about the Gilgronis in a little bit.
Yeah.
Utah won. They won, but like they beat the Giltinis A team. Kind of how like the Springboks played against the Lions already, but it was the A team. It's like, yeah, some of the starters were playing, but this isn't.
That was the Springboks. That was.
Have you seen their lineup today? The pack's a little different.
Oh, is it? I actually haven't looked at the.
Yeah, a couple changes. And then the last game was actually a really entertaining game. The Free Jacks beat Rugby ATL. at their new stadium in Quincy. So um, a good weekend of rugby,
Yeah.
kind of from the start to the
Three
end.
of 3 or 4 playoff teams going in with a little humbling, I guess.
Yeah, yeah, it was interesting to see that.
Mm.
Um, but before we get into the playoffs, Derek, how do we feel the season went? An interesting stat that Brian Ray kind of threw out there, and it was about attendance numbers for the last week. Utah had 4,500 fans in the stands
Is that a
against,
sellout for them?
I believe that was the sellout.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that was against Rugby ATL. So that
They
was,
sold out against, yeah, but is that 4,000? Is that their sellout
I
number? Or
think that is their sellout number because I remember them saying
did they do it
sold out for
twice?
their.
Okay, if they did it
I don't know if
okay,
they
I'm
did
just
it
I'm just
twice.
curious or whatever. Utah's games have looked packed. It's been awesome.
Yeah.
Curious.
Um, New England at their first game at Quincy had almost 3,000 fans.
Nice. Is that the most for them?
I believe so because they haven't been allowed to have any more
Oh,
fans, and I
cool.
think Quincy's a bigger stadium, so they were able to have more fans spread out. And then Old Glory in the season finale had 2,600 fans. So I don't know if that's the
Nice.
most they've had, but that's still a high number. So
I mean, any
near the end of the season,
honestly,
we're getting these larger numbers, right? So it's
yeah.
exciting to see that, and it kind of
I mean,
foreshadows next season.
yeah, I was gonna say, man, if you could get people to come out to games this year, like I think we're gonna be all right
Yeah,
as a league, man. If you got if you were if you were able to come out of a pandemic, and I mean teams having to build, teams having all the attendance restrictions, and I know it varied state by state and stuff. I'm sure Austin looked like they had some pretty good crowds toward
yeah,
the end of their run too, but I mean they haven't played a home game in like a month or so. But um I think Nola too, and Nola looked kind of decent, but again, they haven't played a home game in like 6 weeks.
2 months.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, like I mean, I think that's great if the attendance is going up, and it was going up in this year. That's a big positive. Like,
yes.
you can't
So
complain about
bringing
that.
that up, I want to look at kind of the year as a whole. How do we think that this year went? We didn't have a single
Yeah,
canceled or postponed or rescheduled game.
dude, I have no idea how that happened. Like that's just magic. We had the one game in week one where they push the start of the
Yeah,
Old Glory's opener back. They push it back a day or something,
maybe.
so they still played it. So that's the only game that had to be moved all year. I mean, that's pretty good, especially, I mean, you kind of look at, I mean, you look like right up into like even into the Stanley Cup finals, like Montreal couldn't have a coach on the bench because of COVID and stuff. Like, there's games in England, like the rugby league games are being canceled still because of that. And
I mean, look at like in the playoffs for the Heineken Cup. Like
yeah,
there
like
were games that were
there's
canceled.
there's leagues all over the world that are still canceling and rescheduling games, and um, I'm happy that Major League Rugby, like, honestly, it was one of the things that we were talking about. I remember like when we were talking about when the schedule, when the like after the Jackals pulled out of the season and then the schedule
Yeah,
re-released, we had that episode talking. It's like one of our or at least one of my concerns. I don't remember if you were too concerned about it or if I was the one that brought it up or whatever. But it was like one of our concerns was like, what do you do if you have to reschedule a game because there's not a whole lot of room to reschedule games? They didn't even have to do it. So, I mean, whatever that plan was, cool, but like it's awesome that they didn't have to
yeah,
use it. I'm sure there was a plan in case, but awesome that they didn't have to use. And then like I think it's one of those things too where it's, the quality of the league, I think, increased quite a bit this year. The players are getting better, the coaches are getting better. The quality of imports that are coming in are getting better too. And it's just and I think too, like the actual product itself, not just the gameplay, not just the actual on pitch, but it was like the other initiatives that came in. It's like, some bigger name sponsors coming on board. Whether that's on like an individual team level or on like a league wide level.
yeah.
Cool. Um, and then obviously like the Rugby Network is amazing.
Oh yeah,
I don't I have I mean, I don't think I've seen a complaint, like, even online, the most, like, fickle place in the world, the internet or whatever, like,
yeah. There,
I don't think I've seen a complaint beyond, like, oh, like, like a video, like a game didn't start like necessarily right on time, or the stream didn't start or something.
Well, the first week, I think that you're having a little bit of recency bias.
Oh yes,
There was a
the first week there was some issues, but then they fixed that though.
Yeah, they fixed it because San Diego moved from that venue.
I don't think that wasn't an issue with like the stream though, right?
No, but
that was just an issue with like, oh, it kind of looks like they're playing in like somebody's backyard.
or more so, it was just it was the camera work,
Yeah.
which would be
But I mean,
part of.
like that all got better. I think too, like I think everybody too, like I mean, we're talking about the players getting better as the season goes on, the coaches
Yeah,
getting better as the season goes on. The
and
games,
I think Ray brings up a great point anytime he talks about it. He's like, it's a startup league.
yeah.
You stop
But
trying to compare it to the quality of the premiership, and I think that's what bothered me so much when like spaces like the like rugby union Reddit subreddit talks about MLRs. They talk of like that if we just started the premiership this year, or 4 years ago,
no,
like
it is
MLR did, it
new.
would be in a different
But I
situation.
mean,
Like it's
it is new, and but it's like new doesn't always, absolve you of like criticism either. But in this case, I don't necessarily think it's super warranted either. I had no issues watching games on the Rugby Network, watching games on TSN, watching games on anything. I think even like I know like fans sometimes got on some commentators throughout the year, but I think like overall, like across the board, all the commentaries got way better as the season went on too. Right.
yeah,
Like all that, like everything about it was like dramatically improved. And I guarantee like it'll be better next year too. Right. Cause like you get more time to I'm very interested to see what they do with the draft show, compare that to next year and stuff. Cause like you said, it's like it's a startup, but it's like everybody's getting better at what they're doing, right? And I think like that's kind of the thing, right? Like Lucas Rumball after the loss to England talked about how like the game plan is to get better week by week, right? And I think if you're MLR, the game plan is to get better year by year, right? And even if there is some like hiccups and stuff on the way, and I think across the board, like there's nothing that I don't think there's anything that wasn't like improved.
yeah,
um, I still, in my opinion, I would like to see league wide injury reports be a thing. That's something that I still think should be done. Especially if you do want to, because they signed like those gambling partnerships and stuff. And it's like that's going to be something that if you want to get people invested in the sport from like a gambling perspective, it's like people are going to want to know that kind of information, right? Um, so I think that's something that I would still like to see improved upon a little bit. And but like overall though, it's like there's nothing like the league as a whole, I think is like it's definitely trending in the right direction.
yeah.
And it's
I've got a list.
they were
I think
able
that
I was just like they were able to improve in like the weirdest time too and actually get a season off,
yeah,
which
exactly.
I mean
Like
is
there's not a
an
lot of leagues.
accomplishment on its own.
There's not a lot of leagues in the world right now that can say that after a pandemic season they improved their product.
Yeah.
Like that
Like,
is something to hang your
like
hat on.
it got better, and like yeah, this one did. I hope they do still do like I hope my biggest thing is like I hope there is events in the off season, starting with the draft, which is cool. Um, but like events in the off season to keep fans engaged. I hope is something that continues, and I hope like you know what I mean, like use the rugby network throughout the off season too, right?
Yeah,
Like
do some
keep having guys
documentary
like
work.
yeah, keep
Do
having guys like Ben Foden and stuff making their podcast shows and things like that. Like keep making sure like that is kept up throughout the off season. And then like I think just like I think overall like the league is getting better and better on a year by year basis and stuff. And is it perfect at this point in time? No, but it's definitely I think in my opinion it's getting a lot better as like Rumble said week to week. I think even week to week is probably getting better
yeah,
because I think like during this year I think you saw week to week a lot of things get better. But then yeah, but it's like year to year. As long as it just keeps getting better, I think we'll be in good shape. And hopefully next year the pandemic can be fully behind us, and we can see like the impact and the positivity of like the attendance numbers
Yeah.
starting to go up. But hopefully we start to see them go up across the board when it's like every part of North America, hopefully by that time, is open back up and able to do and able to like host home games and stuff, right? So
All right. Well, let's look at the teams that didn't make the playoffs. Let's take kind of a kind of broad view of how are these teams going to be looking to their off season. So I want you to pick two teams, and I want you to pick one team that didn't make the playoffs but would feel happy about their performance this season. And I want you to pick a team that is looking at this off season and going, we need to make major changes and we need to do it now.
I think I think you only need to go to one state to answer both of those questions. And so the team that didn't make the playoffs, but I feel can feel happy about themselves would be the Austin Gilgronis. To an extent, to the NOLA Gold, but you told me to pick one, so I'll lean Austin. Unless you wanted to talk about Austin, then I can go to Gold. I don't care.
You talk about the goal because Austin was.
I think the Gold obviously had, a handful of like injuries that they had to deal with throughout the year. Guys like Elof being out for the entire season.
Mhm.
They it was kind of weird as they were battling, they were kind of close. They had some games where they looked dominant. They had some games where, they didn't look good at all.
Yeah, a -3
Yeah,
for
minus two
point
total.
differential.
It got down to the end of the season, and with the clash with the window, well, I mean, I guess like with the clash of the international window, they lost a lot of key guys in their pack, and then they had to play LA and Seattle, and it was like, weirdly they beat LA, and then I think they lost and then they lost to Seattle, which I think is something that they're just going to be kicking themselves for doing.
Yeah,
Um, right? Because it's like, you kind of look at it, and even realistically, like you look at the fact that they did beat New York or whatever, and it's just kind of like you guys could be in the playoffs. Like, there's like in all reality, it's like you lost to Seattle, and I mean, maybe I think they're going to be one of those teams too that you can probably go back through all their losses and be like, hey, if that went a little bit differently, they're there. But I think the big thing to me though is just like, which will make you feel happy and stuff, and it's like, obviously like NOLA, and I mean, I'm sure if you want to talk about Austin, I think we can get into
yeah,
that too. But the before Dallas dropped out, the playoff format was going to be 3 teams make the playoffs. Right? That's what it was going to be. That's not what it is, right? So you didn't make the playoffs. But I'm like, if they go back to that next year, you could probably be like, okay, like we finished third last year. We're feeling pretty good. You can probably feel good about ultimately, especially if weirdly, even for NOLA, because it's kind of like you played a quarterfinal anyways. But like, um, but I think, if they end up going back to that, you can maybe kind of look at it as like you could, if you're the coaches of both NOLA and Austin, right?
mhm.
If the format ends up going back to, hey, we're going to do 3 teams make the playoffs, right? I think that you can use that in like your preseason motivation, being like, hey, look, like
We were in,
if
this year
yeah, exactly. If this was the format or whatever, if
we were in the
we
playoffs
could have
last
been
year.
in the playoffs, and then anything can happen in the playoffs. So yeah, like I mean, I think Nola will kind of like look back on it. It's like I think that's one of those things too. It's like, how different does that Seattle game look if it doesn't clash with a test match? Too, right?
For sure.
There's a little bit of I think Nola can have a little bit of like that what if on their season. What if JP Elof wasn't hurt for the whole year? What if how many other players did they have get hurt throughout the year too, right?
Yeah,
What
and
if
I think that that's a great way to also kind of look at
yeah,
Austin's season.
yeah,
You look at their lock situation,
Hassler,
like Jeff Hassel. Yeah, so we got clarification on Twitter that it was a broken growth plate in the
Dustin Zaire,
wrist. Yeah, from Dustin Zaire, who is
Austin Rugby supporter.
awesome rugby podcast. Has been part of the Austin rugby scene for a while. So Dustin, thank you very much for kind of give us a little bit of insight of what happened with Jeff. So that again, and is in the same page of Elof, that is a huge loss.
Awesome.
And it was strange because it was a wrist injury. We always kind of thought maybe he was going to be back,
I,
and it just never really happened. Um, that is a huge. If you look at their biggest problem, is that they had a hard time scoring tries. That is a huge part of
what happened.
and then you look at like their injuries with their lock position, one of the most important, positions in the league. Isaac Ross, Osper, DeChavez, like all took turns being hurt and off of the starting 23.
I think the biggest thing for Austin, though, just flat out, is it's a winning record. Like they don't look like the 0-16 elite anymore.
And you know what? They're young.
I was watching Austin. I'm like, this team's good. And it's like, I know they lost the last game of the year to Old Glory, but it was like they were in the thick of the playoff race. And Dan, as you said, the biggest problem was they couldn't score tries. And that's ultimately what caused them to miss out on the playoffs. But,
and you know what? They're so solid everywhere else that they can take this draft and this offseason going, all right,
they have the immediate, they have like, you can fix it. Hopefully,
it means they might lose some guys, there might be some guys like Roderick Waters or Cole Davis that might go, my time here might be limited. Let's see where else I can go. And that would be huge losses. But they've got young talent.
Single team in the league will be like, oh, what happens if this guy doesn't come back?
Yeah, exactly. But
at the end of the day, we'll see what happens when
my big last point about them is that you look at the team that's on the top of their conference, LA, and LA is not going to look the same next year. Like they're flat out, they're not. They know that they had a window. So they might look better. Who knows? Who else I could sign?
I
don't see anybody below them getting marginally better to the point where they're going to challenge at least next year. And if Dallas joins,
you give San Diego a full season like what they had in the back half after they started to get
but they also fizzled out in the end too, right?
They did.
So
they were also like missing like Augsburger, Rob Shaw for most of the year too.
But
they had some injuries too.
Most of their key players are old.
There you go. Yeah, I mean, I think they'll be fine. I mean, we could probably go do like a little off-season episode of what we think every team needs and stuff.
For sure.
I mean, if you like,
who's your team that you think needs to start all over?
Do you even entertain another answer to this?
I would say Old Glory needs to look at what they're trying to do with their team. I mean, they're losing their top scorer. They're losing Robertson.
But
that alone is
replacing a fly half.
It's replacing a fly half, and I just think there's just so much. I mean, they were a -81. That's the worst in the Eastern Conference. Obviously, there's a structure problem, or there's a lack of commitment to defense. There's something there. I think that they need to change things up because it's that's not a good stat to look at.
There's a team that's like almost last in every single category in the league.
I know, but like that's the obvious answer. I wanted to go for something a little different.
Hey man, sometimes 2 + 2 is 4. You don't if you don't want to be fancy on a test, you don't go 2 + 2 is like 2 squared. It's the same answer, sure, but it's like you can just write 4 sometimes.
I think
I don't even know if that math analogy works. That's how bad I am at math.
With Meyer becoming their director of rugby, it sounds like Sam Windsor's leaving. I think that they're going to have a huge offseason. I'm excited to see what Houston does.
Exactly. You know what those sound like, Dan? Those sound like major changes because they stink. That's why. There's like, is there another team? Okay, so like if you're a Houston fan, who do you want back? That's a long pause.
I gotta look at their roster. Now you got
that's okay. Hold on.
No.
I'm going to stop you from looking at the roster because that's how bad Houston is, Dan.
Nick Boyer.
You had to think hard about Nick Boyer. You couldn't remember that he was on the team.
Nick Boyer.
Who else are you keeping? Silvera?
Balacana.
Sure.
Mateus Freire had a good start to the season. I don't know what happened with him. Nick Hildebrand. Liam Murray.
I'm going to rephrase this question.
Bobby Povey.
If you're a Houston fan, who are you sad if they don't come back? Who disappoints you?
What happened to Duet Roos? Was that injury? Was he?
Yes, I think he was hurt. That's why they needed Boyer.
I would be very sad if Duet Roos didn't come back. He is a He's so good.
All right. So you're gonna be sad if a guy that didn't
Other than that, yeah, no, there is.
So you're saying that it's like the guy that's gonna make you the saddest if they don't come back this year is
Didn't
the
play
guy
at all
that
this
didn't
year.
play the entire season?
Yes.
All right. So that's what I'm saying. Houston is the answer to this question.
Yes.
Houston's the answer to the question. It's they need the most. They had the worst record in the league. They, you know what? Like I was even looking at, like everyone's like, oh, Sam Windsor, he led the league in scoring. His kicking percentage, his accuracy percentage is brutal. He just kicks all the time. That's because they have no
Listen,
confidence.
have a conversation.
But that's the whole thing, though. Most of the league, right? The line out is the way that most of the teams score tries in the league.
Yeah.
Right. When you get a penalty awarded, if Windsor is kicking, that means you have the option to just let him kick, or you have the option to go to the corner and do a line out. And it's like when I'm watching this team play and seeing how much more penalty attempts Windsor has than like everybody else in the league, to me, it's like you have no confidence in your ability to score tries,
Yeah.
which tells me you need to change almost everything because you can't stop tries, you can't score tries. The only way you score is if you get penalties, and that's relying on the other team to make a mistake. You're not going to win very often doing that. So if you're saying major changes, yeah, Hanky Mayer coming in, that's a big change. Major changes, you need major changes across the board on that team. They've been the worst team in the league all the entirety of Major League Rugby's existence. Like they have the cool stadium though. They have the best stadium. The stadium rocks. I love it.
Okay,
and they have the coolest. That's about the only. They look really good. If you took a screenshot of a Houston SaberCat game, they're the best. They might be the best looking team in the league. But they would look. The stadium would look cooler with a scoreboard that leaned towards the Houston side of it for once. I think.
So, what was your favorite moment of the regular season?
Ooh,
because I'll go with mine, and it was the weekend of the military appreciation game, and it was the Rugby ATL versus LA game.
Ooh, see, I was gonna actually say that was my favorite game of the year.
Yeah, it was such a good game, and like, I don't want to chirp Rooney. Like, I want to give Rooney credit because they were the ones that beat LA. You know,
First. They beat LA first.
They did it first. But it just seemed like that was a game where LA was kind of off of their game. You know, it wasn't I didn't feel like it was a dominating win like what Rugby ATL put out against LA. You know what I'm saying?
But even like the thing I thought was like, because I loved in that Rugby ATL game was Rugby ATL made so many tackles in that game.
Yeah.
Like disgustingly, like plus like it was over like 250 or something. It was disgusting. But it was like that was the thing that made that game fun was you had one of the best offensive teams in the league, one of the best defensive teams in the league. The offensive team had the ball a lot, and it was just like try to score on the best defensive team. And the best defensive team was like, we are going to tackle you until you can no longer get up. And when you can no longer get up, we're going to tackle you again to make sure that you stay down. And they were able to grind out a win in that. And that was amazing. Man, there's a lot of really cool moments. I mean, yeah, I think that game, I think was the best individual game. The game at SoFi Stadium just
was really cool.
That was really cool. LA's getting a lot of mentions in this. Like, I mean, yeah, like that's another cool thing. I mean, just like the first game of a franchise, always cool. They got to rock out onto the LA Coliseum and stuff, and iconic venue. That was cool. DTH scoring the first 2 tries in the franchise's history.
Yeah.
I think like to me too, like other big moments. I mean, Aaron Castro, if go through his Twitter feed, he's got a list of all the collegiate guys that made their debut this year, which is cool. Always cool to see like that many guys getting their first taste of Major League Rugby. All the Canadian guys too, Fraser Hurst coming in.
Fraser Hurst's try against the Arrows, like even though it happened against the Arrows, that was such a cool moment.
Yeah,
like,
that was a really cool
game.
Yeah, exactly. That was really cool. Andrew Ferguson's try, if you want to go to that, it's kind of like a better version of Fraser Hurst's try. But I think like you had all those guys like Mike Smith kind of coming in, Cole Davis playing his first couple of to me, Mitch Richardson getting his first MLR try was really
Sammy Malcolm getting
Sam
his first
Malcolm
try.
arrow, yeah, for sure. As the arrows
Yeah.
fan, you got to definitely go with Sam Malcolm's first try there. Um, there was a lot. I mean, I think if you want something, it's not necessarily a moment, but just watching Lucas Rumball, like nobody being able to hold on to the ball near him, I thought was
Yeah.
just how much ahead of the rest of the league he was at that one specific skill this year, is mind-boggling. Man, there's so many great moments. I mean, even like every time Mikey Tail touched the ball, I think that was a good moment. Um, I think man, like there's I don't know, like I feel like this is a conversation too that it's like maybe we got to hold this off for 2 weeks, man, because the playoffs are the best part of the season.
That's why I said regular season.
Regular
There's an
season, that's fair. You
asterisk
did you did word that
there.
correctly, yeah. There could be some good ones, man. Like, I mean, we'll get into this in a minute because we got that one other big thing to kind of talk about. But
Yeah.
there's some storylines going to the playoffs that'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Let's do the
Um,
last. Let's do the last big one here because we.
yeah, the last one is that a Canadian rugby legend has finally hung up his boots. Ciaran Hearn, after the Old Glory win, announced, and I guess they announced it on the broadcast as well, that he
Mhm.
is hanging up his boots at the age of 35 years old. He first started his test career in 2008 and finished at the World Cup in 2019, earning 73 test caps, and that's the most uh, by a back that have played for Canada, and the third most overall for Canada. 62 test match starts, 11 appearances. He made 9 appearances in World Cups and 3 World Cups, 2011, 15, and 19. He scored 8 test tries for Canada. His first was against the US in Kingston. And then his final test try, he scored 2 against Brazil in 2019. Um, Primarily played center, you know, played a little bit of fullback. I believe he's played center, wing, he's kind of been all over the place. And he also was a member of the Sevens program as well, was part of the Seventh Circuit in the Commonwealth Games. Um, Spent some time overseas with the London Irish for a good spell. And then, we know that he finished his career off with Old Glory DC. Derek, he's got to be one of the best Canadian backs of the professional era. Like,
Yeah.
when you look at like putting together a list of guys that would form a backline for Canada, Reese, DTH, Hassler, Hearn, or like and Pritchard, like those are my names right now that I can think of off the top of my head that would be the guys I would go with. I'm missing the center. I'm missing another center. So, you know,
Yeah, I think yeah. To me, I'm like Hearn is one of the absolute best centers that we've seen in the professional era. I think it's you know he's kind of been the cornerstone, and I think the thing that's crazy about Hearn, his career over it, is like he was the best player on the 15s team while or one of the best players on the 15s team while at the same time being one of the best players on the sevens team. And I don't we kind of do often talk about at the end of the day, like whether like I know we've discussed on this is like how often do you really want guys doing that? But there's few players that really did that and had that balance and had that success that was better than Hearn.
yeah,
His ability to kind of go back and forth between 15s and sevens. Obviously had success in both too. He won a Pan Am Games gold medal at sevens. Um, right, like you said, all the World Cup appearances. He scored the last try by a Canadian in the 2021 MLR season. It's fun random fact if you want.
yeah,
I mean, I think which was really cool because it was nice to see him get a try in the MLR. So it would have been, he played all 5 games in the shortened 2020 season. And then yeah, it took him to the 15th game this year. But he got his try, and yeah. Yeah, man, I don't like if you're like I think if you're kind of going with an all-time Canada team, I think, Hearn has a claim to one of those two center jerseys for sure. And it's one of those, yeah, best of luck to him and whatever his future may hold. And it'd be nice to see him like maybe pull like a little Phil Mack, or Jamie Cudmore kind of thing and stick around the game a little bit. But I mean, well, I guess we'll see it happens. It'll it's one of those things. It's like it was interesting on the broadcast where it's like I wasn't prepared to be like, oh, this is the last time I'm going to watch Ciaran Hearn play until they mentioned it. Which is kind of one of those things. I guess it's like why you kind of have to enjoy these storied great careers while we have them, and then like yeah, I think you
I
nailed it.
think that's what thinking about DTH and this season of how well he's played. It's
Yeah.
if anything, I was after the World Cup. I was like, okay, I think I've seen like DTH is done, and then he signs with LA, and like now I'm not prepared for him to retire.
Yeah,
I'm going to get hurt.
no, yeah, exactly. It's yeah, man. Yeah, he's a Canadian legend, man. So but yeah, like I said, best of luck to Hearn and
Yeah,
whatever he does, going forward in the future. It was a absolute pleasure to watch him play. I went through some highlight videos and stuff last night, and there's a couple games that I was just like, oh man, like he was, his ability to just kind of either like he was one of those centers that could kind of run over you if he needed to do it, but could also have that step to go around you. There's some nasty offloads mixed in there. Too. I found one try where he had like it was against Scotland. And he kind
yes,
of broke through the line, and then he had a crazy offload, and Hassler finished it. That was sweet. Um, I stumbled across this other video. There was like a Sean Duke highlight reel. It was like a bunch of Sean Duke tries after he retired. I guess somebody made this video of
yeah.
all these Sean Duke tries, and I was like, whatever. He's just like, you know what, I'm gonna watch this. This will be fun. And then I was like, I got halfway through the video, and I'm like, oh, this is a Ciaran Hearn try assist reel, basically too. It's some pretty sweet stuff in that. So I mean, like, yeah, so I think it's yeah, like it was a great career to watch, and yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. Like I feel like because I started playing rugby in high school in 2006. To be honest, didn't really start watching it too attentively until like the 2011 World Cup. But it's like Kieran Hearn's been like one of those guys that's been there for pretty much the whole time I've been a rugby fan. He's been like one of the
Yeah, same.
players
He
on.
was a young guy in the
Yeah,
2011 team.
he's been one of the big name guys like pretty much the entire time I've been a rugby fan.
Yeah,
So
he's been
um,
just like Mr. Dependable.
yeah, I know. So it's sad to see him hang up the boots on what is a phenomenal career.
Well, let's finish off the show by looking ahead to this weekend in the playoff game. So Rugby ATL and Rooney will be facing each other to start the whole fireworks on Saturday at 8 p.m. in um, in Atlanta at Life University. Um, how do we feel these styles match up? I think that Rooney wants to run through you, over you, and then they want to score the try on top of you. Like they are ruthless. Like watching that game against Nola, and it's like I feel like there are times when Rooney has the ball, and it's like there could be an easier play, like throwing the ball out wide, but there's like no, I'm going to make them feel this,
I think
and they go, they just take, they challenge the contact, and it's just so brutal to watch.
I think that's the fun thing about this game, though, is because Atlanta's the team where they're like, okay, yeah, like we're gonna make you feel this and
Yeah,
ride go through us. Um,
and Rooney has a winning record against them. Like
yeah,
they
they
won
were
both
2-0.
games.
They were 2-0 against them. Yeah, Rooney won 27-17 back on April 10th, and then they won the second meeting 31-24. So obviously very interesting matchup. Looking back on the games though, especially the June 13th match where Rooney won 31-24, the biggest difference in that game was turnovers. And, Atlanta had, I think it was 19 turnovers in that game. And rewatch, like, kind of, I didn't rewatch the whole game, but I kind of looked back at like the tries that Rooney scored. And, in that game, like Atlanta had most of the possession, Atlanta had a lot of the territory. But every single time Rooney turned that ball over, Atlanta found themselves standing on the goal line watching Holland attempt a conversion kick. Um, it was, it was one of those games where it was like, yep, they turned the ball over, and once they turned the ball over, New York took advantage and scored tries. Um, so I think in a weird way, like I think Atlanta, I still think Atlanta has one of the best defenses in the league,
And they're healthy.
and they're
They've
healthy.
got Kurt Coleman, they've
I
got Nell,
yeah,
they've got their guys back from international duty. Matt Heaton is healthy. He played last weekend.
he's back.
You
He's
know,
good.
the
Yeah,
only person that they were missing from this weekend was Momsen. Maybe they're giving Momsen a rest. Like
yeah.
they were a full lineup.
Yeah, and I think that'll
And
be the thing though. Is like I think what you said too. Is like I think we're gonna be looking at two incredibly physical teams that maybe play slightly differently. But I think the style clash, like it'll. I think it's the physicality is gonna be insane. I think, which is what you're kind of looking for. I think like you know what I mean. I feel like I kind of tweeted it's like that Nola Rooney game felt like a playoff game last week with the intensity. I feel like this is going to be like 10, 15, 20 times that. Um, and I like I'm looking forward to it. I think both teams have good set piece. I mean, obviously they have good set piece. They got to the playoffs, right? So both teams have good set piece. The lineout will be interesting because you got New York obviously has, Dylan Fawcett still has, he benefits a lot from those lineout maul tries still. But Atlanta's also one of the best teams at shutting that down too. So that'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see if somebody gets, if someone has to get a little creative, maybe to crack through some defense here. Because I think both teams can play defense very well. Both teams have guys, I mean, both teams too have guys like you have Nate Brakely, his mom said Aretta Linghei's on one side, Brakely Savetta on the other side too, right? Guys with immense work rates. You're gonna have like Henko versus Matt Heaton. There's some fun matchups. Coleman versus Holland said Ellis. Like it's
yeah,
there's gonna be some fun matchups in this game, right? And it'll be interesting to see kind of how it plays out. The two front rows are great. And everybody, so I'm expecting a very very physical game between the two teams here. um and like in all honesty, I think like if Atlanta can limit those turnovers, I think they got this, because I think that was the big thing that led to New York beating was the
yeah. And like I mentioned, they're not having guys play out of position. You know,
yeah.
they're gonna have guys playing fullback that, Esquera, he is a center,
Mhm.
can play center if he even makes the lineup. It's going to be really fun to watch.
Yeah. And then
Okay, and then
obviously too, the Canadian content, Quinn
yeah,
Nawadi on one side versus Connor.
Connor Keys and Matt Heaton. Yeah, it's. I'm interested. I wasn't very impressed in Nawadi's first game back from international duty, and I don't know if it's the structure of Rooney and how they just kind of they only use their centers as distributors, and they really don't get the ball a whole lot. But I just felt like I just saw Nawadi stand around a lot and shift down a line. Like I want to
Nawadi
see him with the
Nawadi
ball more.
Nawadi is one of like the key guys in the operation of their defense though too.
Yeah, which
Right.
is great. But and maybe that's what's really when you think about it, like we know he's got the talent to finish plays or run you over. Maybe for his development, this is the best thing to see him just grow his defensive game, and especially in
You gotta be able to play without the ball too. You
yeah,
spend most of the time without the ball in your hands, right? So
especially if he's going to be playing for Canada, right? Like at the end of the day, like Canada's going to be having to punch above their weight, for their next few test matches. So we need someone that is going to be staple defense. So
yeah.
all right,
I
the
like
other
Nawadi. He's been one of the funnest players to watch, I think,
yeah.
especially from a Canadian point of view.
So final game is the other game on Sunday, LA versus Utah.
The
Um
rematch.
the rematch, the back to back favorable
Home and home.
start time. Yeah.
We can go with all the hockey cliches on this.
Favorable, time for us, 6 p.m. Eastern time. So that's pretty neat. I guess they started the 8 p.m. game to, satisfy some of the Western people, and then
It's called good marketing, Dan.
I guess there isn't it like there's just in sports there's just more viewers in the East Coast and the West Coast or something like that, or is that just my East
Oh,
Coast
I mean,
bias?
if you have a big game, well, that's why I like the Stanley Cup final games start at 8 o'clock Eastern too. They push it back, so it makes it easier for the whole country to watch it.
Yeah,
Just
I'm just saying a playoff game at 3 p.m. local time in LA is an interesting move.
That's fine.
Anyways, let's not get into it because we
What
don't
else
have
are
that
you gonna do
much
at 3
time
p.m. in
left.
LA?
Um, Listen, if LA wears those kits that they wore this past weekend, I hope that they win everything.
Dude,
I loved it.
sweet. Those were sweet, man. I wish like I like they need to bring back the pink striped shorts. That should be a permanent fixture on the kit, man. They like, yeah, I was a fan. They looked good.
Yeah, I feel like this match doesn't have much to say compared to the Eastern Conference final because
Mm.
LA is just so good on defense and Utah is so
Good on offense.
middle of the pack on their defense, Like I just don't see this. I feel like this is an LA win all the way. Like I mean, Utah could pull it off. Really, again, it's a one game. You're at winner takes all game, and Utah could pull it off. But they show the LA lineup, and it's like bona fide winners, like guys who have done it, and
Mhm.
I just don't see Utah being able to pull this off. I honestly, you'll have to convince me because I don't see how they can do it.
Yeah, it's like I think the interesting thing is I think last week, like it's kind of interesting because I feel like the coaching for the semifinal game began last week. You know what I mean? And I think there is that little bit of that like I think right now, if you're Utah, like if you're the Utah staff and stuff, you're going in telling the players like, look, we beat these guys last week. Our scrum destroyed them. Like this, like LA's scrum was 40% in that game. It's
Yeah,
terrible. The scrum destroyed them, put them on skis, and then put them on a vertical hill of ice and push them off. So they're not even sliding; they're just falling at that point.
but who was in that pack?
Exactly. Well, that's the thing, right? And I think if you kind of look at that, it's like Utah's squad in that game was pretty much Utah, right? There wasn't a whole lot of guys missing. Almost nobody missing, I don't think. But it's like that squad was Utah. Whereas if you look at LA, and you know what I'm saying, it's like LA, especially in the back line. Like I think if you looked at the LA back line, like what Ryan James may be the only guy that's actually keeping that jersey for this game. Right. Like and maybe him, maybe they start Ryberg instead of him. That's an option too. So, but like you look at it and stuff, it's like I go through it and I'm like, Goddard didn't play, Giddo didn't play, DTH didn't play, Meeks didn't play, Adam Ashley Cooper didn't play, Glenn Bryce played, but not at fullback. Right. So I think if you are, and also, I mean, if you like you said, the pack too, Dennis didn't play, Ash didn't play, Thomas didn't play, Smith didn't play,
Abel didn't play.
Abel did play.
Did Abel play?
Abel did play, yeah. But Podoivan played too because it was like one of his first games back too, so they got him some game time.
Yeah.
But I think Cottrell didn't play either, right? And I think like that's the thing is like I think if you're Utah, you can go into this being like, hey, like we beat these guys last week, right? Like that's your mental edge, right? You beat them technically.
Technically, yeah.
You beat them. You wipe the floor with their pack. But I think the mental edge from LA is like, we almost beat these guys.
Yeah, we almost beat these guys with guys that have never
Yeah.
played professional rugby
It's
in our
like,
lineup.
right. It's like, yeah, like you're gonna be like, did you like LA? You're going like, did you see what Adam Channel did to Hagen Schulte on the wing or whatever?
Yeah.
It's like that's DTH next week. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's like if you're LA, that's what you're saying to hype yourself up, right? And you know what I mean too. And it's like I think it's the other thing too is I think like the story of this game after for some reason I feel like on social media was like, oh hey, like because Teo scored that late try, and everyone's like, oh hey, woohoo, like another amazing comeback from Utah. And it's like you don't get to call it a comeback when you blew a 12-point lead at halftime.
Yeah,
Like you
no.
blew that lead and then needed that try, right? It's
Listen, the Rugby Network loves their memes, and they're really trying to hype this up as a crazy underdog win, and it really wasn't. In that game,
LA.
the Guiltinis were the underdogs in that game.
Yeah, it was just
Like,
Utah. Utah should have won that game, really, realistically. And
I will say that
what?
if this is like the Guiltinis that we might see next year, they're still going to be good shape. Like that's a pretty damn good team the way that they played.
Yeah. Oh no, I think like I think at the end, the thing I also thought was kind of interesting, and I think Pete Steinberg pointed it out on the broadcast was like Utah was doing a really good job of like disrupting the line out and stealing balls. Fortin, Jensen, Wilson, they were doing really good at that.
Mm-hmm.
Until you kind of watch LA's lineouts and be like, they're not really doing anything.
They're just kind of throwing it in, hoping that.
Yeah, we're just going to throw a guy up, right? And it's like, it's not the pack, and it's like I don't know if that was like, is it my girlfriend was watching like an old movie from the '60s, and there was this scene in which a guy was playing cards with this girl that he like the mother and like grandmother of like this girl that he was like trying to like date or whatever,
Right.
and they showed like and like they're like I guess chatting at this table while they're playing cards, and at one point the camera pans to the man's cards, and it shows that it was like a straight flush or something. It's like he has the winning hand, and he was kind of like looking at the cards that like the mother and the grandmother played, and he decided to like and which was like pairs and stuff, right? So it's like they were clearly pointing out that he had like the winning hand in his like the winning cards were in his hand, and he just like folded them and like made some like comment about them being like too good at this game for him. And I feel like that's almost like what LA did, where they were just like, yeah, it's like we have the cards that will win them.
Giving them a little bit of false confidence.
Yeah, exactly. We have the cards.
Oh, my hand is so bad, Grandma.
Yeah,
all right,
exactly.
I see it.
Now the thing is though with that, and the movie doesn't continue with that scene, so I don't know, but it's like in playing cards, like you might not get that same hand again, or even if you do, the other people might get a better hand. So I don't think this game is a foregone conclusion that LA wins, especially because they're playing Utah, which is the one team in the league that is perfectly fine with the race you to 50 mindset of like yeah, if you guys want to go out and score tries, we can score tries. Like we can just we what is defense? We don't even need to hit in this game. Let's just race and score tries. I feel like Utah's the one team that might be able to hang with them if they try to do that. I think LA set piece. LA has a really good lineout. LA has one of the best lineouts in the league, and they didn't really show anything with it last week, which has me very intrigued. So maybe that's a little bit of them being like, we know we got to play you guys in another week, so we're not gonna show you anything. We're gonna rest a bunch of guys. We're not gonna show you tactics, things like that, right? So it is interesting. It is just interesting. One thing though that I will like, no matter what, LA, you've seen what Utah has done all year. I know I just made the joke about this not really being a comeback last week, but LA, take this from a Leaf fan and somebody that has watched Utah all year. The game is not over until the game is over. So like you've seen them come back constantly throughout the year. No lead is too big on Utah. So I think that'll be a key thing. But yeah, like I feel like I gotta lean LA on this. Just like you said, Dennis, just because it was like that was a really good Utah squad, and that wasn't a very good LA squad. And that game was much tighter than it probably should have been. So we'll see. I don't think that means Utah can't beat them though. I think this will be a fun game. But I also thought like if all those we'll see the lineups. It's tough making the calls with the lineups and stuff, but I don't know, man. I think it'll be fun. I think it'll be interesting, especially the biggest thing for Utah, I think, is like if Utah can get that scrum dominance again, Even if it's not quite that much, because like you kind of said, it wasn't necessarily the best, but there were some good players in the pack still, and like you said, like Abel still played, um, right? So it was like I think it was this like there was a couple guys that could kind of that would start in that, right? So I mean, if they can kind of if they can figure that out, if they can still get that I think might give them the chance to do it. But it was interesting. I think it's interesting to see that the league's best line out kind of kept it beyond simple last week. And so I mean, I wonder if they got a couple tricks up their sleeves for that um for Utah though. So what's the ultimate predictions? We still got to do predictions. I didn't ask Stu for his predictions for this week. Whatever, I'll text him. We'll add it in.
I'm going with Rugby ATL and LA. I think that all season we've kind of thought it'd be these two teams, and I'm not deferring from that now.
Rugby, yeah. Yeah, I think yeah, I mean I think that'll be
Don't worry about the standings anymore. That you can agree with me if you want.
No, I was gonna say it doesn't I was gonna say like the regular season doesn't matter anymore either, right? It's one game, winner take all, move on. I think I would agree with you. I would say LA and Rugby ATL have been the two best teams all year. I think that would be a fascinating final. To have probably the best defense in the league versus the best offense in the league. So I think I'm going to agree with you on this. I think I'm going to go with Rugby. I'll go with Rugby. The two number one seeds, the two home teams. I think I'll go Rugby ATL versus LA will be the final. Which probably means if you're betting on this, take Rooney in Utah.
All right, Derek. Well, that's going to be it for us tonight. Next week we're going to have an interesting episode because when we're recording is going to be the women's first game. So we've got a couple of fun things planned for that. But if you want to listen to more of our episodes, please go to Rouge Rugby on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts. And every other platform that podcasts are available. We are on YouTube. And if there's something that, we're near the end of the season. We've got 2 weeks left of MLR. The Olympics are going to be gone in a flash, We
needed the Olympics to be the week after MLR.
Yeah.
So content creation purposes.
If you want something to be talked about in the off season, let us know because, we're gearing up for a long off season before the World Cup qualifiers. So email us at larougerugbypodcast@gmail.com. Contact us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're all over the place. And you know what? By next time we record, there's going to be a whole lot of talk about. I'm excited.